This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. We are joined by State Representative David Whitaker, Democrat of Fayetteville. He is the new House Minority Leader. Welcome to the program. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Roby.
Congratulations on your new appointment, or condolences, either way. So you'll get to catch a lot of criticism as well as praise. So.
Well, I thank you. And I've gotten that greeting all morning long, so it's probably not unusual that many people see it that way.
Let's talk about it. In the Arkansas legislature, I've been covering the Arkansas legislature or working up around the Capitol for about 25 years. You have liberal Democrats, you have moderate Democrats, you have conservative Democrats, you have moderate Republicans, you have conservative Republicans. I argue there are ultra-conservative Republicans. What's the difference between a Democrat and a Republican in the Arkansas legislature right now to you?
Wow, that's a tough one because, as you know, it's such an evolving thing, and particularly in the last 4 years, we've seen some pretty dramatic chemical shifts, the way the chemistry works. With the continuing rightward direction of the Republican Party, it's hard to find a moderate. Now, what I would say is you're going to find people who are probably quite conservative, but it really comes down more to a question of reasonableness, of someone who will listen to you and want to be willing to work with you and not worry that they get crossed off the Christmas list if they're seen talking to you. But ideology-wise, they're fairly uniform. It's just their approach on what level of ideological purity they're into. Democrats, like it or not, as we've lost members, we have tended to lose members in more conservative areas. Mm-hmm. So in a strange sense, it has made the Democratic caucus more progressive merely by attrition. I don't know that the people that are progressives are more progressive than they ever were. They
Right.
just seem to be in comparison.
Yeah, when you just look at the kind of the percentage right there. Tell me what kind of minority leader you're going to be. Are you going to be a combative minority leader? Are you going to be a cooperative minority leader? Are you going to pick and choose certain battles? Is there some stuff you could kind of tell us where your lines in the sand are?
We'll go with C.
Okay.
I think it's very important to always pick battles. Number one, you don't go in looking for trouble. It's not my style. I go in looking for answers. If somebody wants to get in the way or wants to throw up opposition that I don't feel is reasonable, then you may see combative. But I don't believe that we can achieve much by starting every day yelling at the opponent in his face.
Yeah.
It's not how we do things anyway, and it's not my nature.
Tell me, let's talk about the special session here. One of the big changes that was debated and was passed over Democratic objections was the change to Arkansas Works that are going to move some of that 100 to 138% of federal poverty level universe to either private health insurance with employers or to maybe the federal exchanges here. Democrats fought that pretty hard. Obviously didn't have the numbers to stem that. I talked to one Republican who said this may not be good policy, but it was necessary policy, speaking more to the financial strain of that universe. Is that a reasonable expression of what that policy vote was all about?
Well, I think there's an argument to be made down the line that, yes, we need to continue to look at ways to refine this because there are questions of sustainability in the long term. Those didn't go away with Medicaid expansion. They didn't go away with the changes they made today. One of our big concerns was that we felt that this was a rush into unknown territory without a real good reason yet. I mean, there's not a financial imperative next year. It's down the road on the big numbers.
Plus, the waiver really has still not been approved by the federal government, although there's indication that it will be.
It's far more likely with the new administration. One thing we're worried about is where will these 60,000, 61,000, that's a ballpark number, end up? Now I know it says they're supposed to be shifted over to the exchange. We don't know in a week or maybe tomorrow that this entire landscape could change. And we'll be right back. What we have spent our time and money doing these last few days will be meaningless. We'll be back to square one trying to figure out the new universe. So our feeling was, what was the rush to get this done? Why don't we wait and see what the feds do and then see if we can't, tailor our approach to that?
big topic of conversation in the special session and really just the days before the special session, the budget shortfall for this current fiscal year, perhaps bleeding into the next fiscal year starting in July. By the latest revenue report, about $85 million in the hole from what expectations or forecasts were. Did we cut taxes too much over the last 2 sessions?
I think we may have. I think, and again, it's probably a lot of hindsight. I think we probably more healthy dose of skepticism on some of the projections. I know there was talk in my caucus and among general membership way back when that some of these projections were fairly rosy, and who really thought the economy was going to be growing at that rate. And of course, we look at what first quarter we have at 0.7, and which
right?
You know, when you get that low, you're so close to zero, it's hard to say there's a big difference. There were voices all along the way warning that this may be too much, too fast.
You think it solidifies Democrats, though, to push against future tax cuts?
Well, I
or
think
do you look
so.
at the task force that's going to come up as really an opportunity to redefine everything?
Yeah, and as it turns out, the task force couldn't come at a better time, because we do need to sit down and have an absolute broad-based look at what we're doing. What is our tax philosophy in this state? Because where we are right now is a patchwork, and I don't know if it's even, you know, there's a lot of people, myself included, who think some of the cuts were not quite equitable, that some benefited a lot more than others. But unfortunately, now that we've come to a crunch, it's probably the folks that didn't benefit as much from the cuts are going to be the first ones that are going to feel the squeeze of the cuts.
Last question for you. The House passed, not necessarily completely along party lines, but pretty close to party lines, some rules for guiding potential impeachment proceedings, something that they've never done in the history of the state constitution. There's obviously been a push by at least one Republican in the Senate, Senator Garner, to impeach Judge Griffin. Do you think we will see an impeachment proceeding of Judge Griffin or some, I can't imagine anyone else because he seems to be in the spotlight right now. Will that happen this year?
Well, I'm not going to try to pull out the crystal ball and give you a prediction, because I don't think number one, I don't think it's something we should be handicapping. Right now we have a process. We have the Discipline and Disability Commission has an open investigation. Many of us, most particularly the attorneys among us, are like, let that process work, because it can, and it needs to have the opportunity. The other thing is, echoing Senator Dismang's concerns, particularly the senators really must step back, because if we do, they're going to have to be 35 impartial judges, jurors sitting in judgment of whoever. I hope they don't do it. I think it could be a lot more harm to the state than good.
I think the toothpaste is already out of the tube on that impartiality there. I mean, would you call on some of those senators that have been vocal about this, Senator Bart Hester, Senator Trent Garner, would you call on them to not put themselves in that position to judge?
I'll leave things like, those sorts of calls to the proper parties. Judge Griffin or his attorneys are probably well capable of handling those sorts of calls. I'll leave it at that.
All right, last question for you. Just kind of outline what you kind of view as your agenda as the House Minority Leader, and maybe what you're going to focus your primary, your primary goals for what you're going to do in the position.
Well, my first steps are actually going to be almost invisible, because most of them are internal. We're going to continue building the infrastructure that, frankly, we never had. Representative Gray has gone a long way toward that. We've working with him. We've got a structure. We have a plan. We're rebuilding, refinancing. With his ascendancy to state party chair, we're also looking at a much more cooperative messaging and policy shop, so that one side doesn't have to guess what the other one's thinking, or have to try to figure out how to counteract the folk that's supposed to be on your own side's counter message they just put out. So we're going to be looking at that. Legislatively, I don't have one yet, because I really do have to get the transition handled. And as soon as, dovetailed with that and coming at us very fast in the summer and fall months are candidate recruitment. targeting.
Be feet in the campaign trail. You'll be out on some dirt roads.
I will be everywhere I need to be. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
I've got in the 4 years I've been on the Hill, I've got 65,000 miles on a brand new car, and I may have to get another car, but I will be everywhere I'm needed.
All right, Representative David Whitaker, thank you so much. Look
Thanks
forward
for
to
having
interviewing
me.
you a few more times between now and whenever you're not minority leader anymore. So,
Okay.
all right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
That's all for today's program. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us. Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.